Hello, everybody, and welcome to Thursday's edition of Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. John Schmeelk, Jonathan Casillas with you. We'll take plenty of your calls today at 201-939-4513. I'll go through some of your emails at bigbluekickoff@gmail.com as well. I know I promised that last couple shows, and we got so many calls I didn't get to them, but I will do my best to get to them today. Rough morning for JC. We won't get into the details, but happy to be here to talk some Giants football with you, brother. How are you?
I'm good, man. How you doing?
I'm doing okay. Eagles week. Give me player Giants perspective for Eagles week. You unfortunately were right in the meat of this not being able to win in Philadelphia since 2013 streak. Just give me your Giants-Eagles spiel.
You know what's so crazy? I never really hated teams until I got to New York. You know, like
were you in New Orleans? Like you didn't hate Tampa Bay?
I mean, New Orleans and Atlanta, they had like Roddy White, and they had some offensive linemen that were like always dirty and frisky, like
Roddy
doing
White,
stuff after the play. He was talking the most stuff.
Really? A wide receiver?
Yeah, talking the most stuff.
That seems unwise.
And, yeah, but they had a running back that back it up though, Michael Turner.
Michael Turner, he was a good boy.
Not him, not Roddy White. I wasn't, I had to tackle him too much, but then I got to New York, and then I realized like there's a hatred for the Eagles. There's a hatred for the Cowboys, mostly for the Eagles though. Mostly for the Eagles. And man, they're rough down there. I love it. Like I love hostile environments, and there's nothing. I don't think there's a more hostile place in the country when you talk about visiting teams. What they do to visiting teams.
Yeah, I agree.
When you pull up, they're hitting you with eggs, batteries. We got hit with a battery, I think, and an egg. At least one of the times
I went down.
The bus. Sorry, one of the times I went down to Philly.
And someone told me it's not just like AA batteries. Like they're checking like D batteries.
Like the D batteries. Yeah. The ones that have a little weight to it. They can throw it from a while away.
They have them in their boombox and take them out of the boombox and start chucking them at you.
And when I played them, they had Sam Bradford at quarterback, and then either 1 or 2 years they had Carson Wentz, and this was a young, really talented, getting it out to all the weapons. Carson Wentz, Shady McCoy, So this was. Philly's always a tough team, and they're tough this year again too, but they're a little bit different than they were last year, and they were different even than in the beginning of the season, where in the beginning of the season they found ways to win games. And the last 3 games, of course, they have all losses, 2 of them being very lopsided losses to the Cowboys and the 49ers. And it's just a different team. What I heard Jalen Hurts say after last game, and basically saying like everybody's not on the same page. Like they're not all committed, and I'm like, oh, is there?
It was that committed
some dissension
word that
going
hit me.
on?
It was that committed word that hit me. Deep.
So I'm like, who is he referring to? And from everything that I've heard from Jalen Hurts, and even hearing Dayball speak about him last year and how highly he speaks of him, that's concerning to me. When I say concerning, good for the Giants, but concerning for the Philadelphia Eagles and what they're doing.
Or does that light a fire under them?
I hope not. I watched the Cowboys game where, the Eagles, this is the thing with the Eagles. Their primetime players play primetime. They play big-time football. A.J. Brown.
Devonta Smith.
Devontae. Even Goddard, he plays well.
He's a good player. Yeah.
Jalen Hurts always rises to the occasion, every single game. But I guess the last like 5 or 6 weeks, it's been kind of the other way where he's been responsible for a lot of turnovers, and not really smart decisions, not throwing the ball as well as he could. And then you watch the Cowboys game; their 3 best players on offense lost their fumbles. Jalen Hurts, Smith, and A.J. Brown, who
they had some nice punch outs,
an elite receiver. Yes, 100%. That's demoralizing to a team when your 3 best players basically are giving the football away. Like I heard this since before I started playing football. Is that football is the whole entire organization, and your best players just basically gave the organization away 3 times. That's very demoralizing. And that's why I think you're seeing some of these lopsided things. And to quote what Bosa said, they put out a blueprint, and the same blueprint that a young Russell Wilson had, don't allow him to step up in the B gap, because then he gets very dangerous once he steps up in the B gap, because it's not a foregone conclusion that he's going to run the ball or pass the ball, but he can create, and the receivers create more time. And you got A.J. Brown with 3 or 4 seconds, 5 seconds running down the field. Devonta Smith, Heisman winner, 3 or 4 extra seconds on top of the 2 or 3 seconds to start with. That's how they become so dangerous. And they put out a blueprint, and teams have followed it and have success.
And I'll be honest with you, I don't want to give all the credit to the 49ers because they played the Chiefs on November 20th, and Jalen Hurts had 150 passing yards. The game after that, they played the Bills, and Jalen Hurts did 200 passing yards. The Niners, he gave up 298 passing yards to the 49ers. Now, it was a blowout game, but Hurts did put up yards in that game. Then the Cowboys under 200 and the Seahawks under 150. And by the way, Dallas played them back on November 5th. That was 6 games ago for them. He only had 207 yards in that game. So
he played good football that game.
He did. Mm-hmm. He did. He had 2 touchdowns, no interceptions in the game, and he has 4 interceptions in his last 5 games. But to me, JC, this goes back. And look, I don't think Jalen Hurts is playing as well as he did last year. I totally agree with that. And I think his knee's messed up when he's not moving as well. But for me, the difference with the Eagles, and maybe this is me having bias for watching what they did to the Giants last year up close and personal. The Eagles just against the Giants last year said, we're going to pound the ball on you for 200 yards, and we're going to just annihilate you physically.
Yeah.
I don't get the sense this Eagle team is capable of playing that way for an entire game.
Yep.
Their running game is not nearly as dominant. Part of it is because the quarterback running game is not as good. I don't think it's a Swift issue versus Sanders, but maybe that's part of it. The offensive line, I don't think, is playing as well in the run game. Isaac Seumalo's not there anymore. They benched Cam Jurgens. They brought back in the player that had played earlier in the year. His name escapes me at the moment. I have it in front of me here. They slided back Sua Opita back into the starting lineup last week. And then Shane Steichen's not there.
Yep.
And what I remember from Shane Steichen last year, JC, he finds a play. He spams it.
Yeah.
I mean, how many times did he run
yeah.
that Jalen Hurts power run against the Giants last year, counter, whatever it was? We had the 2 pullers out in front of him, and he ran it like 4 or 5 straight times. And I just don't get that same sense that the Eagles, for all those reasons together, their run game is quite the same.
And like I'm looking at the numbers right now for Swift, he's averaging over 4.5 a carry, which is very good in the NFL. But when I watch the games, it just look like they don't stick to the run as much as they used to. And I think the quarterback run game, which propelled the Giants to the playoffs last year, without that being, I think, because that was kind of their go-to last year, and they did a lot of things off of the quarterback run game. And Miles Sanders is good. I think Swift is a really good running back. Miles Sanders had 1,300 yards in his offense last year.
Yeah.
And they decided to run the football every single game. And then the Giants, I think they rushed for like 750 yards in 3 games.
I think Swift is probably more talented in terms of speed and quickness. I think Sanders is probably better at reading blockers and hitting the proper hole consistently. Yeah. But at its core, I don't think it's a running back issue. What their problems are on offense. I
think it's the scheme that they're trying to do and the mindset behind what they're doing.
Right.
In terms of how they're approaching, running games, how they're scheming up teams, and then also quarterback play as well. When you have a quarterback last year, Jalen Hurts threw for like 7 interceptions, something like that. Because I know Daniel Jones was through 5, right?
Hurts protected the ball extremely well.
Yeah, he did a really good job protecting the football, and that's why they were able to have a lot of leads in games, and then also their defense. Their defense was number 1 in pass efficiency last year, and now they're like 29th.
Yeah, 6 interceptions last year, already has 12 this year, just for the.
And he fumbled several times this year too. He's given up the ball. If I'm not mistaken, he's leading the league in turnovers.
He's right at the top. Yes,
and that's saying a lot because Josh Allen over there, he's just giving them away every week. He's scoring touchdowns, but he's also giving away the ball too. So, it's a lot of different situations, different reasons that the Eagles are not the same team as last year. But don't get it twisted. They're still superiorly talented of a team. Like they still have Hassan Reddick on defense, who's a beast. Jalen Carter. They have another draft pick.
Hurts has 5 lost fumbles, by the way, to go along with the 12.
Which is a lot.
That's 17 turnovers over the course of 13 games or 14 games now, right? That's a lot.
And I think you add maybe 1 last year, so he was like 7 total last year in terms of turnovers, and this year is 17. And they still got games to go.
Well, and I think that's reflected in their plus minus. I brought this over Paul yesterday. Eagles were plus 6 last year. They were plus.
Probably more than that. I would think a lot more than that.
No, they were plus 6 last year, and they are minus 6 or 8 this year. What are they this year?
Really?
This year the Eagles are minus 6. I think last year they were plus 6. Yeah, so
they're
it's a 12. It's a 12. Yeah, they're minus 6, dude. You want to know why their record's not? Why they're not looking as dominant? Right. That's like a 10 to 12, and I'm going to double check the number last year.
And if they weren't so talented, they would have a lot more losses on their team.
Well, right. I mean, and I brought this up with Paul yesterday. I like to use point differential, right? I think that's a good indicator, better than wins and losses, even as to how good your team is. What do you think the Eagles plus minus this year in terms of how much they've outscored their opponents? To give you an idea, the Cowboys and Niners are about 150. Plus 150 this
Plus
year.
150.
Where do you think the Eagles are?
The Eagles did give up some points to the Niners, and they gave up some points to the Cowboys. I'm thinking plus. Let's go plus 100.
Plus 18.
No way.
I think I saw the stat the other day. They are only, I think, 4 teams that have ever had a 10-4 record and have a plus minus of under 20.
Wow. But that's how talented they are. That's because that's how talented they are.
And they've won a ton of close games.
Right, a ton of close games, yeah. That makes sense. But those numbers are outliers because you got a team that's like literally so talented at every single position. You know, for them to, I guess, have those type of statistics is a reason why they're struggling right now, and they can't kind of get out their own way.
So they were plus 8 last year. So that's a 14 turnover ratio difference from last year.
I know. It might get worse. Right. It might even get worse.
Could better too.
Yeah,
but
it could get better. Right. Hopefully not, because the Giants will be directly the cause of that.
And that's the one thing and the Giants have not lost the turnover battle, I think, since, I'd have to go back and see when's the last time the Giants lost the turnover battle. But it's been a while.
I had a question. I didn't get a chance to watch the show
what do you got?
yesterday. Bullock and Gillen. What's the health
Bullock,
of these guys?
Bullock, no, he's out.
Bullock's out,
Yeah,
okay.
so it looks like Cade York, unless something changes. Brian Dable basically said it'll be Cade York when he spoke yesterday. And it looks like Gillen's going to be okay. We were actually waiting for Thomas McGahee to pop his head out to do his media availability today. He hadn't come out yet. I had to run in. It's freezing outside, by the way.
It is cold.
But so I'm not positive about Gillen, but Brian Dable didn't seem to indicate that he was in danger of missing the game. So I think Jamie Gillen's going to be okay.
That's a huge concern, especially if Gillen can't go.
But would it shock me if they brought in like a punter and a kicker this week as emergency guys, just in case there's an issue?
And Cade York,
sure.
Is he kicking off as well? Field goals, extra points, of course.
He is a big leg, so I would think yes. Yes. But remember, Jamie Gillen had done that previously.
Oh, yeah.
So
he nailed that field goal the other day, too.
Yeah, and I was right. The last time the Giants lost a turnover battle was the Dallas game on the 12th. They were -3. Since then, they've been plus 12. And wow. I'm sorry, let me take that back. Plus 14.
What?
In the turnover ratio. I'm sorry. That is aggregate change. Let me take that back. They are plus 9.
I'm believing every stat. Whoa! Oh my God!
They are plus 9.
I'm not a stat guy, guys.
Plus 9 is still pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Plus 9 in turnover ratio after the last 4 games, which is pretty unbelievable.
Yeah, and 2 wins out of that, right? Was it 2 wins?
3
wins. 3 wins.
You have your 3-game winning streak in there, and then the loss to New Orleans when nobody turned it over last year. So. It's been a good run for the Giants, and that's the one look. And you want to talk about Tommy DeVito, for all the things he's done well this year. That's the number for me. And it's not that close. Number 2 is probably his ability to run the ball.
Yeah.
But number 1 has to be the fact that he's protected the ball.
Yeah. I believe so too. And then if you want to go to like intangible things, his heart, and his moxie, that he kind of brings to the field, and you can see other guys get inspired by how he plays and how he approaches the game. He's a tough kid. He's not a big guy, but he's tough. A little too tough sometimes.
North Jersey tough, man. Come on.
Yeah, a little too tough sometimes. Kind of the problem I have with Daniel Jones. That's my main problem with Daniel Jones.
Slide earlier.
He's too tough sometimes.
Slide earlier.
He's too tough sometimes. Just slide. And and I use this guy for an example, Patrick Mahomes, right? I think he got hit, was it the Cardinals game, right on the line or something like that, early in the season. And they were all over him, right? He doesn't get hit like that.
No,
that's a very rare occasion. You know why? Because he slides very early.
Same with Lamar.
He runs right out of bounds.
Dude, Lamar runs all the time.
Yes.
Dude never gets hit.
Never gets hit. Yep. And he has an uncanny way of when he's taking contact to absorb it, and it doesn't look like he's getting smashed. Because again, Lamar's not a big guy either.
Now Josh Allen's the opposite.
Right, yeah.
And so is Hurts.
He delivers the
Hurts
pain.
and Allen will both deliver pain.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
Okay,
but they're also a lot bigger guys.
Correct.
Josh Allen's 245?
Yeah, I think Hurts is almost probably 230.
230?
Right?
Yeah, but he's solid.
He looks like
he's strong. He lifts, he squats. Tommy DeVito is not. He's not a big guy at all.
All right, let's open up the phones, guys. 201-939-4513. We have some open lines. 201-939-4513. Situationally, the Eagles are phenomenal this year, JC. 3rd and 3rd down conversions, 9th in the red zone offensively. They've been very strong on that side of the ball. They make big plays. They're in the top half of the league in big plays. Not as high as I thought they would be, actually.
But I know the two reasons why they're so good on those situations is because, number one, the quarterback run game is always prevalent there. Number two, they got that dang whatever called
tush push.
Bro, it's the most efficient play in football.
I know.
It's insane.
And Wink had a good line today. And actually, let me ask you about this. I think it's an interesting point of conversation. He said you have to treat every 1st and 10 like it's 1st and 9.
Yeah.
So is there a way? I know it's so drilled into your guys' heads to like guard the sticks on 3rd downs and 2nd down, but can you actually say, all right, if it's 3rd and 7, we're going to play it like it's 3rd and 5. So if they're into a 4th down, it's going to be 4th and 2. You can't tush push 4th and 2 or 4th and 3.
Yep.
Can you mentally like get that out of your head and like pretend the sticks are like 2 or 3 yards closer to the line of scrimmage, or is it impossible to do?
I'm not even, for like me, if I was a player, I wouldn't even listen to that. Wouldn't even listen to it. I'm just going to play how I play it and try to keep them out of 3rd and 1 and 4th and 1. You know, I'm not trying to, that's too much analytics, man. I just got to play football. Be better on 1st and 2nd down. How about that?
Well, but I guess my point to you is that can you play it so that, you know, you don't want to stop them and make it 4th and 1. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do you play a little bit more aggressive?
Oh, yeah. Okay, I see
that's
what you're
my
saying.
question.
Yeah.
So, like, if it's 4th and 7 and the 4th down marker is the 35-yard line.
37, right? 37. Going for
30. I'm sorry. You're right.
Uh-huh.
3rd and 7. I'm sorry. Let's say it's 3rd and 7, and to get the 1st down, you have to get to the 35, right? Do you play it as though the 1st down marker is at the 33?
Okay, yeah.
You know what I mean? So
you
don't give them that 4th and 1 opportunity. You make them do 4th and 2 and 4th and 3, which is less efficient.
Yeah.
And they're more likely to punt it. Can you mentally make that change and make believe the sticks are actually closer than they are?
I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't. It goes against everything I've learned from football.
And again, that's why I wanted to get because it's easy for me to say that. Yeah. It's harder for it to actually get into the heads of the players.
And there's a point to be made there, though. You know, like you have to understand when they get in that situation, 4th and 1, 3rd and 1, it's almost like 100% efficiency.
It's like 95.
It's insane.
That's crazy.
And then they have plays off of it as well, where they can toss it, they can do all kind of stuff of it.
They did that last week.
Yeah.
They ran the little
and they got it.
Sweep to
they got it.
Swift. Yeah.
And they got a touchdown off that earlier in the year too. So it's a very dangerous play. But at the end of the day, it's part of football, you know, and I'm not – for me, I'm not one to say get it out the league. I'm not one of those guys. You know, I like a play that you can't stop. You know, hopefully the Giants can figure it out. But it is what it is. You know, they figure something out, and nobody has replicated it at the level that they do it at.
Well, is there a way to stop it, JC? From your perspective as a linebacker, like what would be your – like if your defensive coordinator comes to you and said, JC – how do you think we should go about trying to stop this from a player perspective?
To be honest, I don't know. But if I had any guess, right, because it looks like what they do is they get on all fours, basically all 5 of their linemen, right, and they all kind of plow into that D tackle zone, right, and they what's that called when you go like this? What's that? I feel like it's a word.
A wedge.
A wedge. They're wedging, and they're wedging low, and they're consistently moving their feet. What I've seen a lot of teams do, including the Giants, is that they kind of dive and they're not moving forward.
Yeah, it's like they're almost trying to take out the legs of the offensive
But they're
lineman,
consistently moving, though.
Correct.
Like as it's happening, they're moving and they're like crawling and pushing, like army style, like on all fours. And then you got a quarterback who squats 650 pounds. 700 pounds. That helps too. And then the guys in the back are strong guys as well. That's helping push as well. So they have a recipe that nobody has figured out how to dissect it and stop it.
Do you like the jump over the top thing that a bunch of these linebackers have tried, which never seems to actually work?
I wouldn't say that.
I feel like the linebacker jumps, winds up on top of the pile, and then just goes for a ride as they push the line.
That's exactly what happens, I feel like. But I think the only way to do it is to match the wedge, how they're wedging, match that wedge, and then have a linebacker kind of glaze off the top.
You almost have to try to stand up the offensive lineman, get underneath him and
it's impossible to do.
I think it is hard
because they're on all fours, you know. And Kelsey cheats too. He's moving the ball up. You saw that?
Like half a yard.
That's when it's 4th and 1. That's half the distance. You know, that's a lot.
There was one play where he moved it past the mark.
Yeah, come on, bro. Hey, but look. If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying, you know? And the Giants don't go for none of that stuff. We call it early. Say, hey, watch, 62, right? Watch 62 before the play. Watch their ball. Because he grabs it and he goes on all fours. Let's say the ball is right here. Mm-hmm. He'll grab it And once he go down, he put the ball right there. And that is a big difference when it's 4th and 1.
It is.
It's literally half the distance. And, but the Giants stay out of that situation if you can. And if you do good on 1st and 2nd downs, you keep them in 3rd and longs all game, then you'll have, some ability to stop them on 3rd down.
All right, JC, I've never done this before. I want you to read this email that came in. Tell me if you think I should read it or you think I'm going to get people mad at me if I do.
Don't read it out loud.
No, don't read it out loud. Read it to yourself. I'm going to do some copy, and then you give me your take on whether or not I should read this on the air. Guys, go subscribe to the Giants Huddle podcast. A lot of great content on there. My interview with Solomon Wilcots from Wednesday. Mike Teal, the offensive coordinator from Tommy DeVito's high school team, is in there as well with Lance Meadow. Is that posted, Pearson, today? I think it is, right? That's posted. Go check that out.
Yes.
Go check that out on the Giants Huddle podcast. It's on your favorite podcast platform. It is on thegiants.com. It is on the Giants app. What do you think? Should I read
After
that?
I've read Path to Victory, I literally thought it was all football. I was like, this is going to be a good football scenario.
There is
that's
nothing football
delusional,
here.
Probably.
There is nothing
This is
football
delusional. But read it.
I'm going to save it for the end of the show.
Okay, cool.
I'm going to save it for the end of the show.
Pearson, it's on you too, bro.
This is all about you, Pearson. And blame Casillas. I felt a little uncomfortable with it, but he's all in.
I don't think that, I know the answer to that, and it's respecting, the other person that they're speaking about, here, respecting that situation. But it's funny. So definitely read it.
It is funny.
It's definitely funny.
I agree. It's funny. 201-939-4513. Let's go to Tim in Charleston to lead us off today. Tim, what's going on?
Hey, John, JC, how you doing? Good to talk to you guys.
We're
again.
good. Thank you. Good to talk to you, Tim.
So I just first, I hate to do this when he's not on the show, but otherwise I'll forget completely. Lance's interview with the gentleman, I forget his name, who has been DeVito's quarterback coach since he was 6 years old. Mm-hmm. That was phenomenal stuff, and I encourage everyone to listen to it because it's really...
That was on the Giants Huddle podcast
really
last
good.
week. Thank you for that, Tim.
You're quick with the listening, Tim. That literally went up like an hour
Well,
ago.
no, I think he was talking about the one last week.
I heard
Pearson.
that days ago.
Yeah, I think he was talking about the trainer from last week.
Very good.
Yeah.
I appreciate that, Tim. What do you got?
No problem. I listen to all your content.
I know you do,
and
we appreciate that.
So as far as these next 3 games go, honestly, I have to be honest, I don't have a lot of hope for the Philly games. I'm just hoping that, as Howard said, we look like we're making some improvements in our competitiveness. The Rams could, that's a game that I would like to see us actually, perform well in and see if I know they're playing well too, so see if we can pull out a win. It is at home. And then I just wanted to speak to next year when we get to free agency and the draft real quick. I feel like obviously we need O-line help, but I feel like you can usually – you guys still with me?
Yeah, we got you, Tim. We're listening.
All right. I had a call coming in. I didn't know if it interrupted our conversation. So usually you can get a guard in the draft, a fairly decent offensive guard, at a reasonable amount of money. You're never going to get a tackle. I'm sorry, not in the draft, in free agency, for a reasonable amount of money. So I feel like we need a tackle, we need a guard, and I'm not saying we need a tackle necessarily because Evan Neal's a failure. I'm saying we need a tackle because we need to have somebody that we can develop. And if we have to take him in the first round, take him in the first round, man. That'd be 3 in a short number of years. But he could be, if Neal turns out to be quality, he could be a swing tackle. If he's better than Neal can be the swing tackle. And ultimately, Neal can move inside. So I feel like we need to take a tackle. I mean, first round maybe, possibly our first pick in the second round. And then with our other picks, I feel like, like you said, John, offense. We need to find another stud receiver. And
if you want to make sure you get a stud, Tim, pick that guy in the first or in the early second round. And I would advise it towards the first. If you want to make sure you get like a super stud, it gets a lot tougher the further you can find them, but it does get tougher the further you go along.
Yeah, but I feel like the trenches are where we need the most help because that's where
that's
we're getting destroyed.
I get it.
That's where we're getting destroyed. So if we use our first pick, and we have 2 picks in the second round. So if we use our first pick in the second round to take a wide receiver,
and this is a deep wide receiver, and this is a deep wide receiver class, Tim, you should be able to find a good wide receiver, even if it's not like a Marvin Harrison elite level guy.
Right. I mean, hell, if Marvin Harrison was there, all bets are off. We're taking him, but he ain't going to be there.
Unlikely.
Top 3.
And I know it's a deep wide receiver class because I also listen to draft season not necessarily on a timely basis every week, but I listen to all of them eventually.
No, we appreciate
and
that.
As the draft gets closer, I'll be listening to them the day they post. Thank you, gentlemen. I love your content. Oh, one of the last thing I wanted to say is oh man, I was going to say this when I called yesterday, but it took 111 calls and I never got through. Is that it's that's it. Is that yesterday I was amazed that I started calling in about 5 minutes into the show, couldn't get through, and I have this thing in my head that I play a uniform number thing because whenever I have something repetitive to do, I make it into a numbers game. And I go through. Okay, Phil Simms. 11, Saquon Barkley, 26, Doug Kodar, 44, Lawrence Taylor, 56, Troy Archer, I go up to, and then I go up to like Michael Strahan, 92, and then after that, I'm just like hoping to prayer. And I got to 111 yesterday. I said, all right, I'm just going to listen to the damn show. But the thing about that is it's not my frustration. It's the fact that even in this dismal season, you guys put up such great content. You have such great conversations. You are so respectful of the fans for the most part, because some of them, whatever. Yeah, I mean, with the Wilsons of the world and others. I mean, you're respectful to them, but it's like you got to be this. That's why I love Charlie. Never calls in when Howard's on. It's like. Because Howard ain't going to tolerate that.
No, he does not. That is correct.
Neither does Wilson. You notice that? But anyway, it's just kudos to you guys for having such a great show with great content and great conversations. That even in a dismal 5 and what the heck
9.
are we? I don't know, 5 and 9 season. Yeah, everyone you can't get on the phone with you guys because. It's like it's not like selling seats in the Panther Stadium for 45 cents each. People actually want to come.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you, guys. I
really appreciate it. Checks in the mail, man. That was like the best advertisement. Like, can we clip
so
that
good.
and send it upstairs?
It's so good. Tim, when he's out arguing with those Eagles fans and Cowboys fans, as there are plenty in New Jersey and New York. Where's he at?
He's in South Carolina. Yeah.
So who is he arguing with down there? The Panthers. So yeah, it's not really an argument. But I know he has football arguments. I bet he wins every single one of them.
Well, he goes to the bar to watch the games, of course.
He wins every single argument.
He is definitely like and Tim, that is not meant as an insult, but he's definitely like the Cliff Clavin of the bar. You don't know what that is? Oh, boy.
Cliff Clavin. Hold on, wait. Is that the program?
No, that's the name of a character from a TV show. So you can Google search that. Pearson, do you know who Cliff Clavin is? Oh, Jesus. I'm the old guy in the room now. This is the problem.
Is it Cheers?
It is Cheers. Yes, Cliff Clavin is the mailman that sits in the bar and always has like the stories and gets on these long dissertations about things. Tim is like, I guarantee you, he's like the Cliff Clavin of the bar. He goes to watch the games
too much.
I wouldn't imagine you did. Yeah. Cheers was even at the end of was before I became older. The only reason I saw any of Cheers because my dad watched it and my older brother watched it, and obviously my older brother's 10 years older than me, so I kind of caught the tail end of Cheers.
Got you. Who was I thinking? I was thinking of.
It's like the first time I was the one to bring up something that nobody else knew what it was. This is what the Tino feels like every day.
So for some reason I thought Joe Kane. When you said Craven, I was like, oh, Joe Kane from the program. That's the quarterback. That's what came to my mind when you said Craven. I was thinking Kane.
I was going to go to the next call. We do have a couple open lines, by the way, despite what Tim said. You can give us a call, 201-939-4513. He brought up Charlie in his calls, and he said never calls up Howard. Well, he did call up Howard this week. Or was it last week? I think it was last week, right? It was last week. So This is Max. He writes us an email, and again, you can send him into bigbluekickoff@gmail.com. This is his email. I'm writing this email after Charlie's rant to John and Howard. Everyone's feeling good after 3 wins, and Charlie calls up and yells and screams about how you have to get rid of Daniel Jones because, of course, that's Charlie.
That's Charlie,
and he was
yeah,
literally mad about the team having won 3 straight games. He was legitimately how angry was he, Pearson, at the Packers? He's like, I can't believe the Packers played that poorly. Like, can you believe it? Can you believe the Packers were that bad?
Is Charlie actually a Giants
Yes,
fan?
he loves the Giants.
Interesting.
Yes, believe it or not. All right, so here we go. So Max says, I understand the argument for a quarterback, but you know what will happen if you don't address the O-line or other aspects of the offense? We'll have another injured quarterback or one that doesn't perform well. Anyone that thinks otherwise clearly hasn't paid attention to not only our team, but others too. I get especially annoyed when someone says a person who played the game effectively doesn't know what he's talking about. That was Charlie talking. That was his quote to Howard.
Oh,
Howard,
wow.
you don't. I believe that was a quote, right, Pearson? Howard, you don't know what you're talking about. I believe that was the quote. I believe we should draft the best player available, but I would personally prefer a wideout to compete with Hodgins and Slayton, a pass rusher, given Aziz's injury situation, or an offensive tackle as insurance if Neal doesn't pan out. I'll get off my soapbox now. That wasn't much of a soapbox, Max. We've had much more soapbox moments on this show. Sorry for my rant, and thanks for putting up with it. Go Giants. And I think Max's overall point is correct. And Chris Long, I retweeted this the other day. He had this great rant. He was on with Kevin Clark, who does the Ringer podcast for Omaha Productions and ESPN. Mm-hmm. And Kevin, he likes to ask this question to former players, and I've asked you this before too, I think. What if you could change one thing about the way people cover the NFL, what would it be? And Chris Long goes on this long rant, and he says, I want people to talk about things in context. And he goes, especially with quarterbacks. There's maybe 2 or 3 quarterbacks in the league, if that, or 4, he said, that can transcend any situation or scheme and still be effective. Mm-hmm. Every other quarterback, and he's referencing other players too, in this league and their ability to be effective is dependent on what's going on around them and what other players are on the team. And not enough people talk about things with that sort of context. And that's what we try to do here when people call up and try to kill Daniel Jones. You talk about the context of what's going on around him, right? And look at the 2 rookie quarterbacks this year, right? C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young. Mm-hmm. We saw Bryce Young all year has been terrible. But why? Is it because he can't play quarterback all of a sudden? No, probably not. It's probably because his offensive line can't block and his receivers aren't getting open. Yeah. And if that's the case, how is the quarterback going to succeed? And then you should look at the year C.J. Stroud has had, right? He's been fantastic. Well, he's had a couple issues the last couple weeks before he got his concussion. Do you think it has something to do with the fact that Tank Dell and Nico Collins both got hurt? Right. Well, that's the situation Bryce Young has been in the entire year. Yeah. He doesn't have Tank Dell. He doesn't have Nico Collins. He has Jonathan Mingo and Adam Thielen, who is a nice receiver, but he's not what he used to be. So the context of what's going around individual players, I think, and this is my roundabout way of making 3 references to get back to the email question, does impact the quarterback. Because if you bring in a new quarterback and you don't fix the problems at protection and you don't fix the wide receiver problem of guys getting open, that quarterback's not going to do a good job either. Yeah. That was the point I was trying to get to.
And then if you think about, like, where Tommy DeVito's at, right? We're talking about him despite certain things, right? We're saying, oh, yeah, he played well despite getting sacked 9 times. Oh, he did this despite getting sacked however many times.
And he had the drops last week, too, a receiver.
So, it's if you have a quarterback that's putting that ball where it needs to be at all times and you have receivers that consistently drop the ball, Baltimore, Kansas City, seen it from elite MVP quarterbacks, they're struggling because sometimes their receivers don't convert for them on 3rd down, crucial situation, like situational type football where you have to convert, and they made a beautiful, brilliant throw, and they don't do it. On top of that, you look at Cincinnati, right? Joe Burrow, everybody knows how good Joe Burrow is. Joe Burrow's always hurt because he's always getting sacked all the time consistently. And we all know how good Joe Burrow is. Joe Burrow at one point was 3-0 against Patrick Mahomes. So you have to be able to protect the quarterback, no matter who the quarterback is. You have to have good receivers, targets for them to throw the ball to, and you have to have some type of ground game. Like, quarterbacks don't get efficient without those things.
Correct.
It just doesn't happen. And if they are efficient without those things, his name is probably Patrick Mahomes, but even him, he's not having a year that we've seen in years past.
Oh, no, not even close. 100%.
So even what Chris Long said, even that, it's still it's a determinant factor. It's so many different determinant factors that makes a quarterback success the way it is. Like Tom Brady, people say, oh, he never had a number one receiver. He had Gronkowski. He had Gronk.
Yeah.
For a long time. He took him to Tampa, had Gronk still. You know what I mean? Like, Mahomes, he Tyreek Hill, he got Kelsey. Like, he has targets. He may be one target, but that's good enough, sometimes. And you can become an efficient quarterback that way if you're protected. And even the knock on Tom Brady, not the knock, it was never really a knock on Tom Brady, but the knock on the New England was that their offensive line wasn't that great. But then you got coaching and Tom Brady, all of a sudden they're getting the ball out under 2.5 seconds every single time.
Yep.
So there's ways to go around it, but you got to have targets. You got to have an offensive line that consistently protects your quarterback, not once in a while. Not one game out of 5 they give up, no sacks. Like the Giants, they have to continue to upgrade this roster through free agency and through the draft. And it doesn't take 1 year to get a team back. It doesn't take 2 years. It takes at least 3 years to get a team, Joe Shane and Dayball, to put their hands all over this team and make it the team that they want. It's not a 2-year project. It's at least a 3-year project. And right now, they're going into what? Year 3. This is the second year. And now they have another year underneath their belt. And then the following year is like, that's the make and improve it year in 2024. But the question is Daniel Jones going to be healthy? That's a huge question. And now they have to figure out that answer. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I think some of it is, okay, we got a guy in Tommy DeVito who can actually win some games for us because he showed it in 2023. The Giants are definitely thinking, do we draft a quarterback? They're definitely thinking that. You have to. And you also have to bring in another quarterback, whether that's through the draft or through free agency or whatever the case is, because if Daniel Jones is not healthy, you have one active quarterback on the roster as Tommy DeVito. You can't start the season like that.
Right, of course.
So no matter what's happening.
In fact, in order to get to practice, you probably have to bring in
bring in 2 more.
Two more.
So there's no question the Giants will bring in another quarterback.
Because you want 3 quarterbacks that can throw for you in the spring.
You have to. You have to. And Daniel Jones is not going to be throwing the ball in March.
No.
So there might be
June, probably.
at least 2 quarterbacks coming in for OTAs. And if Daniel Jones is healthy around training camp, I think you still got to have 1 more quarterback, including Tommy DeVito.
Yeah, I'm with you.
So yes, the Giants have to address the quarterback situation. The question is it through the draft? Is it through free agency? Wherever they land at in the draft, whoever's available. Because I don't think Joe Shane are going to reach. I don't think so.
No.
Because they have capital to do things, to slide back, to move forward. They have capital to do certain things. And he's not afraid to give up a draft pick. We've seen him do that.
Yep.
But I don't think he's going to reach. I think he's going to allow the players to fall to him, and he's going to grab the best player available, whether it's that tackle, receiver, quarterback. I mean, you could always use corners. You could always use pass rushers. So I don't think they're going to reach. But what I do think they're going to do, they need a quarterback, whether that's through the draft or free agency, whatever the case is, the Giants need a quarterback. And I love Tyrod, I really do. He's one of the only guys I know on his team besides guys that I actually played with on the Giants. I don't think they're going to move forward with him because he's the what if Daniel Jones got hurt. But now it's like Tyrod's always hurt.
Well, and they also have DeVito, who's shown that he can be the primary.
Right? And he's not on contract next year, too. So it's not like he's on contract and they're cutting him. They're not cutting him.
Right.
He's just done with the Giants. And I think the Giants will move on from him. They can't move on from Daniel Jones. It's not possible. No. Not even happening. No. Not even close. Daniel Jones, when he becomes healthy, he will be the starter for the New York Giants. And it's his job to lose when he's healthy. It's just what it is. Contractually, they're locked into him. And then with Daniel Jones in 2022, you can never forget that. You can never forget what he did in 2022. Doing what he did on the ground, in the air, throwing the ball between the hashes, one of the probably most efficient quarterbacks in the league, great in the red zone, great on third down. The Giants, they need that back. They need to get that quarterback play up to that level again, and they're searching for it. They have a guy, but he's hurt, in Daniel Jones, and if he's not the guy next year, then possibly they might do something. But Daniel Jones is locked in. As of right now, I think Tommy DeVito's locked in for next year, and the Giants have to bring in somebody during the offseason to help take reps.
All right, Brandon, I'll get to you on the phone line in a second, but we have another email that is kind of related to this larger conversation. And Pearson, look at your email. I felt good in the holiday spirit. I'm going to give you veto power over the email. I'm giving him veto.
Oh,
power,
the one in
JC.
here.
Yeah, I feel bad about reading that.
Yeah.
So I will give
funny
Pearson.
though,
It's very funny. I will give Pearson veto power. I think he's going to veto it, but we'll see. Antonio wants to know, at the bye, the GM stated that he, after watching Neil's college tape, that he thought it was good. Well, he wants to know if it was left guard tape or left tackle tape. Well, we played tackle his last 2 yards at Alabama, so it was obviously the tackle tape. In hindsight, I'm taking a page from the Eagles playbook and drafting a tackle, either Joe Alt or Fashanu, and then compare their tape to Neil, and then you figure out, just play the best 5. Are you a draft alignment early in this draft guy? Would you prefer a wide receiver? What do you think is, without getting into actual player evaluation, just from a general perspective here, top offensive lineman or top wide receiver? Pearson's laughing.
I don't know, man. I wouldn't know because it's whenever you draft someone, it's not a sure thing. It's not. No matter where you pick at, no matter who it is. Joe Burrow wasn't a sure thing.
Right.
I mean, he ended up working out.
I guess my question is, given what's on the roster, who's here, the weaknesses, trying to help your quarterback position out, to your point, get back to the level you played at last year, would you rather double up on an offensive tackle, right, and then figure out what you're going to do with Neil, or would you rather go wide receiver? Assuming the players are equally graded.
I would probably go wide receiver, and the reason why is because I think recently, the last 5-6 years, these receivers that are coming in from the draft, coming in from college,
they're ready right away.
They're coming in ready, ready to go.
More so than tackles.
More so than tackles. Tackles is a learned that you got to learn that you're going against, and I keep saying this everywhere I go because I believe this is a true thing. You're going against the best athletes in the world in those pass rushers in the league. They're strong, they're explosive, they're fast, they're quick, they're long-armed, they're rangy, they can bend. Like, they're insanely, and you're 320 pounds. Like, not to say you're not an athlete, because you are, but it's very difficult to block these guys, and it takes a little bit of a learning curve.
Miles Garrett is a legit, like, he looks like a superhero.
And I call them the best athletes in the world, right? And some people say, oh, the DBs or the receivers. Okay, cool, right? Can Miles Garrett backpedal? Yes.
Dude, Micah Parsons.
Right? But wait.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Grab Sauce Gardner. Can Sauce Gardner push an offensive lineman down? No, he cannot. That's my point I'm trying to make.
Right.
These guys can do anything that everybody else can do. Maybe not look as good, but they're the strongest guys on the team.
Micah Parsons ran a mid 4.40
right.
time.
They're explosive.
250 pounds.
It's insane. So those are the guys.
was used as a gunner.
Yeah.
A gunner. Dude, how crazy that is. He's 270.
I know. I played gunner and people thought that was crazy. Yeah. So for me, I would draft a wide receiver. But I am very alarmed about some of these young wide receivers I've seen. I don't want to say some. I'm kind of calling out George Pickens a little bit about that stuff that he did the other night. Man. And then I don't know if that's what they got going on. Something going on with the
that
culture
was
over there.
also a knock on him coming out of school, though.
That's that young receiver stuff, man.
You have to get the right type of guy.
Like prima donnas, You
have to get the right type of guy.
The thing is, receivers always been prima donnas. But now, even more now.
You need to find the Justin Jefferson. He does not appear to be a prima donna, right? He seems like such a good kid. Julio Jones wasn't a prima donna.
No.
He was good. AJ Green was never a prima donna. You got to get someone like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, but a game wrecker.
Correct.
And Marvin Harrison.
Jamar Chase doesn't seem to be a prima donna from what everything
he's
we've
a dog.
seen.
I mean, he said a little, I'm always open, He said that. And then he got the ball like 12 times the next game for like 150 yards, 3 touchdowns. Throw him the ball. But, yeah, so if I would, me as the GM, if it's early on, I'll probably be leaning more towards that.
That's why I asked.
And then I believe this with the Giants. I don't know if they have done this, but people keep saying, oh, don't spend the money on free agency for an offensive lineman. Why not?
No, I'm all in.
Why
look,
not?
I have not done a deep dive into the guard list. I know we did that show at the Tino a couple weeks ago. If there's a really good guard out there and you have to pay him near the top of the guard market, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. All right, I'm in.
Cool with that. Yep.
I'm fine
cool
with that.
that.
I got no.
Yep.
And remember, top of the guard market is like $13-14 million. It's not like you're paying $28 million to T. Higgins, which is what he's going to cost, by the way.
Really?
He's going to cost at least 25 to me. Like, it's a much different market based on the position, which is why I'd be much more willing to go in on that at guard than I would at, like, wide receiver for me.
And I'm going to use my experience because two of the better guards that I've played with, Jari Evans and Carl Nix, they were all pro guys in Drew Brees when Drew Brees was in New Orleans. And the ability for Drew Brees to step up in the pocket was always there.
And I think, by the way,
always there.
It also helps your center. You get an all-pro
Yes.
guard there, and that helps John Michael Schmitz.
100%. You know, so for me, if I would go that way, if I had a decision to make in terms of what are we doing free agency, I'm bringing in the best guard and I'm paying premium dollar for it. And then I'm also probably drafting receiver in the first round. That will do two things. The two things that we talk about, protecting the quarterback and giving the quarterback more options, more targets. You're doing that. One through free agency, one through the draft. And then, of course, you build depth through the draft, which my main point last year for the Giants this past offseason was to continually get depth. They needed more DBs, more pass rushers. You need really good players at every position, and you need good players coming off the bench to sub in for some of these guys on defense as well.
I don't see anyone that I would consider all-pro level in free agency. PFF has their list out, which is usually pretty good. I'll throw some names at you. Kevin Dotson, Rams. Robert Hunt, Miami Dolphins. Kevin Zeitler.
Zeitler again.
I don't think they're going back down that road at 32 years old.
That's Wisconsin right there, baby.
Yeah. No, Dalton Reisner from the Vikings.
He was a
nice
different
player.
person.
Ezra Cleveland from is he from Cleveland? Ezra Cleveland? No, Jacksonville. Sorry. I don't think he actually was. I just saw Cleveland there. It got me confused. Damian Lewis from Seattle. He's a young lineman. He's kind of a big mauler type. He's 330. John Runyon. That's the other Runyon's kid, I believe. Did you know Josh McCown and Chad Pennington's kids are like playing in bowl games too, by the way?
Dang.
Made me feel so old.
Dang.
Jonah Jackson, he's a young guard. So there are some guards out there. I don't think it's going to be, it's not like Zach Martin's out there.
Yeah.
But there are guys that will certainly help you.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of a place you take a look.
Like I love Pugh, right? But Pugh, like he said, he's self-proclaimed straight off the couch, right?
Well, I mean,
if Pugh was playing football this year earlier,
we saw the limitations against.
Yeah, but if he was playing football earlier this year, since like OTA's training camp, he was healthy. Remember, he was hurt too.
Mm-hmm.
I think he'll be better because Pugh's not terrible. He's not been playing that well.
Of course not.
But I like him in the locker room, especially because of offensive line. They need a leader.
Yeah, I think you could have him in the locker room, though. He doesn't necessarily have to be a starter.
Right. They need a leader, and they need a guy that can go like this and bring everybody together.
Correct.
So they're hanging out outside the facility. Because I think that's a recipe for success. When teams hang out with each other outside the facility, that's why I see Kayvon Thibodeau and Saquon Barkley playing chess in the locker room. Like, that's dope. I like that.
No, it is cool.
Like that, doing stuff like that would
Yesterday,
keep teams close.
Saquon was playing Connect 4 against somebody. I forget who he was playing against.
And I know
But it was a
Saquon's
little
competitive for
Yeah,
everything.
he's into it.
And I love the little mini games that they play, like throwing the ball in, what the Giants do for them.
Oh, and it was a crazy ping pong too, man. It was.
Oh yeah, they get after it in the locker room.
Jason Pinnock was showing off some skills yesterday. He's spinning it on the.
No way.
Oh yeah, really, really impressive. All right, Brandon in New Jersey. He's been holding a while. Sorry, Brandon. What's going on, man?
How's it going, John? How's it going, JC?
What up,
We're
bro?
good.
While I was waiting, I wanted to talk to you about my email I sent on November 21st about the tush push because it's that week. But actually, while I was on hold, you guys said a couple things. I did want to I just brought a few things to my mind real quick.
Go ahead, man.
One,
You got it. What do you got?
In the past, me and you had, especially with the last regime, me and you had a little back and forth about the GM and the bye week, and something I was real happy with Joe Shane this year is we got a State of the Union. I was real happy, and he took accountability, and he didn't just throw his head coach under the bus. And that was a beautiful change. Love it, fellas. Love it. All right, I'm not going to say that. The second thing is I did want to, in the words of Lance Meadow, I wanted to add a little context to your little Charlie and Howard thing. And the one thing is, Howard tends to have a general disposition if you didn't play in the NFL. Anything you see, it doesn't exist. That didn't happen. You don't know more than him. And so then Charlie calls with everything he sees and just all the way on 10. And I think he can work on his delivery. But that last conversation, I don't think Charlie said a bunch of inflammatory stuff, but what he said wasn't untrue. And then Howard just always takes obsession because Charlie's never played in the NFL, so who is he to, you know what I mean? And then
Well, Brandon, I can tell you from talking to Howard, he believes what he believes, and he believes in it very strongly, and he will argue with you about anything.
And he's old school,
so
too.
that is just that's the way Howard is, and we love him for it. So that is why him and Charlie tend to clash a little bit.
Yeah. And he's more like no.
Oh yeah.
No.
Howard, much like Charlie. Like if I was elected president, neither Charlie or Howard would be in my State Department as a diplomat. They would not get those
I'm
jobs.
much more diplomatic
yes,
than
100%.
Yeah. I'm very accepting of every caller that calls, and I allow them to get their point across.
Yeah, one day I hope Howard apologizes to Charlie.
Oh, that ain't happening. That is not. That is not happening. No way. I don't know Howard as well as you know him, but that ain't happening for sure. Not Charlie.
I would say unlikely. Yeah. Never say never.
Yeah. So what I actually called for was I sent you an email on the 21st, and then I was hoping that you forwarded to Carl Banks just so you could read it, but I don't think it got forwarded. But in my email, I was talking about that tush push, and then earlier you had asked Jonathan, this woman we call, you said, how do you think you could stop that tush push? And I think I know how, and I think it has a lot to do with, like you guys said, that it's that center guard. They get down on all fours, they wedge up together, and they just push whoever's right there. It's really just the center and the two guards do the majority of the work, and then and that's what it is. But in the other team, so I sent the email in November. So before my email, I didn't see all the teams I saw try to stop that play. Were all doing the same thing. They were diving at Kelsey's legs, and he would just literally lay on them. And now that this tush push is a 5-yard tush push, so they just slide. It's like they're surfing over the backs of each other, right? Like you'll see it at the goal line. They're at the back of the goal line when Jalen Hurts finally gets up, and it's like they just dove over everybody. And I think that's because, again, like they're trying to get low. So by taking his legs out, you're only helping them. You're becoming a roller for them, right? And I think like what needed to happen or what could have happened, I think it's too late now, but what Seattle kind of did it. They put 2 D tackles right there on the center. And I think you got to take those D tackles and hit that center like a old school 5-man sled. You get them up in the air. And then if you could get, more big guys right there to kind of take some of that pressure off the guards, because it's the center and the guards, not just one. It's all 3 of them coming at you at the same time together as one unit. So you got to really kind of wedge them apart from each other. So if you could get a guy to hit that, the guard on either side, and then, you have 2 D tackles hitting your center like the 5-man sled, like old school sled, you get him up, because he's trying to go low. So if you get him up, now Jalen Hurts is doing a regular quarterback sneak. He's not going. So Seattle did something like that yesterday. If you check my email, you'll see I said that at some point somebody's going to figure that out and try to get Kelsey up. And as they do it, they're going to run a counter. So if you looked at my email, I even have.
I see it here, Brandon. I see it here. Counter. Yep, I see it here.
Yeah, I even have ways on that email that you could kind of sit on that counter, because I felt like at some point they're going to have a counter for this, and then boom, last week.
Hey, Brandon, did you play football?
So, I did.
What level did you go to college?
I didn't make it.
Well, we can't watch the email. We can't look at the email. We can't look at the email. No, I'm just playing. I'm just playing. I'm just playing. I'm just playing.
You're going to have a cross route.
You met me, JC. I'm real small.
Hey, you heard him? He was like, "Nah, man, don't do that." He was like, "No, come on."
Come on, man. I got the mind for it. I just don't have
No, Brandon. I have your email right here. Next time I see Carl, I will try to show it to him. Okay.
All right.
Brandon, thank you, brother.
Thank you for the call, man. I appreciate it, dude. Good stuff.
You heard him in the back. He was like, "Come on, man."
Yeah, I know. Here's one. As you say that the Eagles linemen are so low, right? Could you almost try to get on top of him and knock him to the floor and go over him?
Yeah. I was thinking
you maybe try and
more
do that?
Unconventional ways.
Yeah.
Like when he was saying, like, "Oh, you got to do this with the guard and all that." I just think they have it figured out over there. You can't stop how they figured it out.
That's why I was thinking something unconventional.
So maybe
right?
go over top.
Right.
Allowing them to kind of get the low.
Like, is that a penalty? Like, if he comes really low at you, can you, like, put your hands on top of his back and push him down to the ground? Like, is that legal?
But you can't go up, right? Is it the point of going up or something?
On a regular play, you can. Is there leverage on non-field goals? I think that's
that's
a
the
good,
leverage deal.
That's actually a good question.
When he was talking just now, when Brandon was talking just now, I was thinking of unconventional ways, and I'm thinking maybe the defensive linemen are just standing up, not even going down, They're just standing up and allowing the wedge to happen and just diving over top of the wedge.
The question is, Hurts is going to be so deep behind those guys. You know, he might still get a yard out of it, but he's probably not going to get more than that. That's interesting.
I don't know. Just unconventional way. Like, I feel like the conventional ways, like the ones you think, and it's like force against force. And it's like
the Eagles have that figured out.
You know, 100%. it's like this, right? Like the Roman walls, right? They never breached the Roman wall. So you got to go in an unconventional way.
Or the way the Romans fought, right? They had their shield wall in the front of their lines, right?
Yeah.
Like that.
But then they sent in what was it the Romans or the Spartans, whatever it was. Whoever had the wall that he couldn't breach, and they sent a Trojan horse in there, right? They did an unconventional way to breach something that's never been breached, to stop something that's never been stopped. You do something a little unconventional.
That was Troy. That was Troy. The movie Troy. That was Achilles versus Hector.
Yes. So that they're like just doing something unconventional, because what they're doing is like almost unstoppable. So the way to stop it, don't try to do force against force, because they're too good at it. They've done it too many times. They got it down to a science. So do something that throws their whole thing off. Maybe stand up defensive lineman. You know what I mean? Like something like that. I don't know.
All right. So, Pearson, have you vetoed this, or can I read this?
I'm fine with it, but I just don't know if the other person
Open the door and see if the other person's behind the door. I'm curious, because they're recording something else shortly. Is the other person behind the door yet? See if you can find them. No? All right. I almost want to wait. I almost want to send this, and then I don't know. It'll be a little awkward, though, if that person is around. Okay.
Want me to text them to come in?
Yes. Can you, please? Yeah. Yes. Send that text, please. And then I will read this. I got Pierce's permission. Should I also get her permission to see if it's okay to read it?
Oh, I think you should just read it right in front of her.
Well, you can do that. I'm not getting in trouble.
I'll read it.
Send the text. By the way, folks, go download Giants TV. It's the Giants streaming app. Roku, Apple TV, free Amazon Fire TV, all that good stuff. Go check it out when you can. And, of course, Giants have a couple home games left. You want to go check it out, go to giants.com/tickets, and you can do what you need there. Leave that door open, Pearson, just in case they pop their head in here. I want to make sure that we see them. So, JC, just real quick, give me your keys to victory here for the Giants to take out the Eagles on Christmas Day.
Well, I think, number one, you have to do a good job in matching up against A.J. Brown. And Devontae Smith, too, but A.J. Brown, he's just a whole different animal. You know, he's a beast. Do you put Banks on him? Do you put somebody over top? Or, you know, do you put a Dory on and put somebody over top and let Banks take Devontae? That's a question, you know. But you have to be able to affect, you know, their number one receiver, because A.J. Brown, he's torn some teams apart this year. So you got to do a good job against him. And then number two, I like what Bosa said in keeping Jalen Hurts inside the pocket. Because a lot of these quarterbacks, and I throw Aaron Rodgers in there, when he's good in the pocket, but when he gets outside the pocket, he becomes exponentially better. And the receivers, they get open. And it's very hard for people to cover 4, 5, 6 seconds with these tremendous receivers. So keep Jalen Hurts in the pocket, do a good job on A.J. Brown, and figure out creative ways to get Saquon the ball. And I still believe this. The Giants need some type of identity on offense. They need something that's their bread and butter, right? When you look at the San Francisco 49ers, if you look at the San Francisco 49ers, right, you say, oh, when they run the Trent Williams side, they're averaging 7 yards a carry, right? The Giants don't have any statistics out there that goes for them in terms of what they do schematically, and they have to figure something out. Does it happen against the Eagles? I don't know, but I think they have to figure something out, figure their identity out on offense, so something that they can kind of rely on and hang their hat on.
Do I have permission to read that on the air?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, excellent. All right, here we go. No, I asked him first. All right, here's the email from James Ball.
I said yes.
No, come over here. Get in here. All right, from James Ball. Hey, Schmeelk. I may be a Dululemon. I don't know what that means, but
that's what I say on the show when I'm being delusional.
Okay, there we go. Perfect. All right, so here we go. Is there a path to victory for Pearson to get a date with Madeline? I know she has a boyfriend, I'm guessing, that she might be out of his league. And I know that it would be tough for them to overcome that Boston-LA rivalry thing. But back in September, who would have thought that Jones, Barkley, Thomas, and Waller would play a total of 40 snaps together this season? And Madeline does like to quote Lloyd Christmas. So you're telling me there's a chance.
You know, the Boston LA rivalry thing is just something we could never overcome.
Yeah,
Get over
as
that.
much as I have so much respect for Pearson Butler, it's just that's you called it out right there. That's a sticking point.
It just gets in the way, yeah.
James,
That's hilarious.
excellent
That's a
email.
good one. Good one, man.
Excellent
It's
email.
all that 1 in a million talk.
I know.
So you say there's a chance.
Pearson not liking the underdog role in this particular situation. All right, everybody, thanks for being with us on Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the Giants. For JC, for Pearson, for Madeline, I'm John Schmeelk. We'll see you next time, everybody.